It's time to have a serious conversation when it comes to Brock Purdy because I think most 49er fans believe that Brock Purdy and what he has done in his career shows that he is either elite or near that elite level quarterback. And I think when you really go and you break down what he's done so far in his career, we've got a tale of two completely different guys. And I think there's a reason for that. And I think that the truth is Brock is both of them. But we've got a sample size now that is almost as big as the sample size we had of him playing good football. And that sample size continues to grow with each game. So I'm going to throw some stats at you real quick, and then we're going to talk about it. 2024 season. Now, with this, you're going to notice I didn't do overall numbers. And the reason I didn't do overall numbers is because Brock Purdy's missed a game. So I did percentages. I think it's the fair way to do this. I did per games and percentages. So for the 2024 season, Brock ranks 18th in completion percentage. It's 65.7% completion percentage. That is just 0.3 above the league average. Yards per game, he ranks 13th, 246.1 yards per game. Now, I didn't do a league average here because anybody who's thrown a pass gets trickled into the league average when you filter it down. So I don't have a league average for this one. I didn't purposefully leave it out. I know how people get, oh, you left that one out because he's exhibit. No, if a receiver throws a pass, it brings down the league average because that guy now has 10 yards passing on the season or what have you. So that's why there's no league average here. He has a 4.0% touchdown percentage, which ranks 21st in the NFL. That is 0.3 below league average. He has a interception percentage of 2.5, which ranks 20th in the NFL. And by the way, this is amongst starters. So I filtered out all the players that are not starting. They are not factoring into these rankings. So it's not like one guy came in, he threw for a game, he's included in this. No, this is ranking amongst starters in the NFL. Guys that have played 6 or more games and are the starting quarterback for their team. Okay. That ranks 0.4 above the league average. But remember, this is interception percentage. You don't want to be above the league average. You want to be below. You want that number to be below. The higher the number, the worse. So he's actually 0.4 above league average in a bad way. His passer rating, I'm not a big fan of passer rating, but a lot of people are, so I threw it in here. 94.8, ranks 14th in the NFL, 2.9 points above the league average. It's safe to say that Brock Purdy is playing like an average starting level quarterback right now. So if there's 32 quarterbacks and the average is 16, that's about what the level of Brock Purdy right now. That's what he's playing like. Okay. Now we can go a step further. We're going to look at Brock Purdy before and after the Ravens game. And I'm going to tell you in a second why this is super important. While you are here, make sure you check out the sponsor of the channel here at Last Second Sports. It is Underdog. Underdog has got you covered no matter what it is you want to do, whether that's weekly fantasy, yearly fantasy, daily fantasy, more or less is. They've got you covered. And if you use the link in the description or sign up using promo code LSS, you'll get a deposit match of up to $1,000, 50% of that, and you'll get a free pick on top of other perks. Check out Underdog now. They've been a great sponsor of the channel all year long. So Brock Purdy and the 49ers before the Ravens game averaged 31.1 points per game. This includes the playoffs, by the way. After they averaged just 24.1 points per game. Completion percentage is down 4% from before to after the Ravens game. Passing yards per game down 11.1 yards per game. Yards per pass, down 1.5 yards per pass. And before the Ravens game, he had 34 more touchdown passes than he had interceptions. After the Ravens game, he's had just 5 more touchdown passes than interceptions. And his passer rating has dropped 27.1 points. It's a massive drop. Now, why is this important? Well, Brock Purdy has not been in the league for years and hasn't stacked years upon years. You go take a player that has been in the league for 6, 7, 8, 10, 12 years and has produced, and you take a 16-game sample size or a 12-game sample size, it's like, okay, well, whatever. They're having a down period, but this is not who they are. But for Brock Purdy, this season is a pretty big sample size. And even more important, since the Ravens game, it's no longer cherry picking stats. Since the Ravens game, that's 42% of his career starts. We act as if Brock Purdy has been in the league and been producing year after year after year. And now all of a sudden, this right here is the anomaly. Is it? Because this is 42% of his career starts. This is nearly half of his career now. He has been a league average quarterback, starting quarterback, league average starting quarterback, which is not bad, right? That's not bad. That's pretty dang good, especially for the last pick in the draft. That's actually incredible. But for a guy that gets talked about as if he's elite and as if they should throw unlimited money at him, and as if he can do no wrong because he had this hot start to his career, is absolutely crazy. It's untrue. And the film does back up all these numbers. I love stats, and I think stats can tell a story, any story that you want. But when you watch Brock Purdy, he's playing exactly like what these numbers show. And he has been playing that way the whole year. It's funny because Cosell came out in the last week and was like, Brock Purdy against Seattle, he just didn't seem to see the field that well, and he was double clutching and all. Go back to the week 2 film review against the Vikings. I've been saying this all year long. Brock Purdy is double clutching. He's passing up open receivers. I get it. Things around him have not been the best at times. I am not arguing that they are, but elite quarterbacks can overcome and produce, at least at an individual level, no matter what. And Brock Purdy has had some opportunities. Some of it is on players around him, certainly, but a lot of it is on him. He's bailing from clean pockets, and he's passing up open looks, and he's been doing it all year long. You have to look at everything all in, and this is why I've been saying you have to watch the third year with Brock. We have to know what that third full year looks like. We have to know what it looks like next year. Because right now we've got a tale of essentially 2 seasons. One where he was really good. And when I say 2 seasons, I mean, yes, his rookie year, he had a 7-game stretch that bled in up until the Ravens game. That was a season. And then you have the stretch from the Ravens game on, which is a season in itself, essentially, that has not been good. It's been okay. It's been mediocre. So what does season number 3 look like? What does it look like next year? We should probably know that before they just pay him whatever. Now, the 49ers are going to do whatever they're going to do. I understand that. My point is, though, is that you cannot walk around and act as if Brock Purdy's been nothing but elite year after year after year and is having a down time in his career. And he'll bounce back. It'll be perfectly fine. Now, we can look at this two ways. We can say, hey, we don't know which one Brock Purdy is. We got to see it for a third year to really know who he is. Maybe he was the guy in the first season or so. Maybe he's the guy that we've seen in the second season. I think Brock is both. I think Brock, if he is surrounded with unbelievable talent, will elevate and look phenomenal. I think he's a good football player. And I don't think every quarterback can do what Brock Purdy did. I don't. That being said, elite quarterbacks produce on an individual level, at the very, very least, when things around them are not going well. They'll still put up good numbers. They'll still keep their team in games that they have no business being in. So early on, you could say, hey, you know what? The 49ers are winning. Brock's a winner. The 49ers are winning. The stats are good. Well, if the stats were still good and the film was good with Brock and they weren't winning, we can separate that. We can say, hey, this is separate from the quarterback. The team is not winning, but the quarterback is playing at a high level. We can do that all across the league. We did it with Matthew Stafford when he played for Detroit. We've done it with Herbert up until this year with the Chargers. We're doing it with Joe Burrow right now, is a great example of this. But Brock Purdy is on a team that's not winning, and he's not playing good football. And he hasn't played good football for quite some time. In fact, for 42% of his career, he hasn't been playing good football consistently. Now, there's been a game or two where he's looked good, just like in that first season I talked about, where all the numbers were really good. There was a game or two where it wasn't good. You had the Cleveland Brown game, for example, or the Vikings game. But for the most part, over a nice stretch of games, he was producing. Just like in this stretch, there's a game or two, Seattle or the Rams, where you can cherry pick and say, hey, it looked really good, but the sample size overall is league average starting quarterback level. That's what Brock Purdy has been. So I don't want to hear, oh, he's a lead and he's earned it. And no, he hasn't. We're talking about a sample size that is nearly half of his career starts. We have to see more. And I think anything other than that and acting as if that 58% far outweighs the 42% of his career is simply being disingenuous.